Well, good afternoon, everybody, and you're very welcome back onto the main stage again for our afternoon sessions. Our first session will be kicking off very shortly, and could I encourage you, as you listen to the presentations, if you have any particular questions that you would like answered within the session, please put a capital Q in front of your comment in the chat area for the stage, and if it's a particular question for a particular person, just put a Q and the person's name, and we'll get to that after the presentations. This first session this afternoon is going to be around how can a single source framework provide the roadmap to recovery for construction. And before we kick off, I want to again thank our sponsors as well as our speakers. This couldn't happen without the sponsors, so a big thank you to EY Breakthrough, our platinum headline sponsors, All Health Matters and Fit for Construction, our silver sponsors, and Plus Parts and Sealmaster as well. So thank you to them. Thank you to you for being here. And a big thank you now to our speakers for this afternoon's session, starting with Stephen Parker.
There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Albert Einstein. Thought you'd like that. Firstly, a good afternoon again to everyone, and I hope you're all well. And a big thank you goes to Penny and Carol and the Best Business Events team for creating the Southeast Construction Expo. My name is Stephen Parker. I work for Willmott Dixon as one of the business director relationship managers. So why are we here? Well, to be honest with you, the reason is in the title of this session. How can frameworks provide the roadmap back to recovery for the construction industry? And as you will hear today, the Scape framework encapsulates all of the ingredients to support that message. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the session, I want to create a positive call to action to everyone on this webinar. Willmott Dixon believes that, and by their sheer nature, frameworks can create a more collaborative approach, which in part has to be an important element to the industry's recovery. Like most tier ones, Willmott Dixon rely on these frameworks, and a huge percentage of our turnover is created through the use of them. Now, I was going to recite some positive KPI outcomes for you, but they're actually too many to mention, to be honest. But I'll give you a couple. 9 out of 10 client satisfaction, 100% supply chain payment on time, super important at the moment. Supply chain that is constantly market tested, and a try before you buy approach. There's many more, as I say, but I won't bore you with them. But the one word that you're going to hear many, many times today is the word collaboration. Our industry is notorious for talking a good game, but in the main, we are very poor at sharing, poor at creating efficiencies, learning from our mistakes and experiences, and therefore, and dare I say it, we don't collaborate. Now, surely, with all of the pending potential construction work and to get the industry to row quicker together and to build greener, better, more effectively, more expediently, we have to create a structured, flexible platform, and frameworks could be part of that answer. We must also seek to get behind some of the government initiatives, things like Construction Leadership Council, with their roadmap titled Reset, Restart, Reinvest. The Construction Playbook, which is centered around government's approach to outsourcing. And it looks at things like procurement, benchmarking, social value, project delivery. And they review not only what needs to be done, but how to achieve it, which is unusual. So we know that frameworks and governments go well together. And I'm sure you're all aware, but pre-COVID, construction represented over 9% of GDP, with over 11.3% of anybody working in the UK was in the construction industry. So if we start to look at some of the ingredients, and we now start to look at government's pro-growth ambitions and agenda, only by working positively together, collaboratively, with all the stakeholders and partners, can we realise and achieve and unlock some of the huge challenges that are in front of us, but more importantly, the huge potential. You know, construction's been the same for 100 years. Regrettably, with COVID, it can't be the same for the next 100 years. So we must strive as gatekeepers in our industry to trade out of this situation and create a positive mindset for recovery and change. We have to collaborate to make this happen. And finally, if you're not serving your customer well, make sure you're serving somebody is. Be inspired and make a difference. Don't leave it to somebody else. Take the responsibility. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the session, everybody. And I'm going to hand you over to Vanessa Good from Scape. Many thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm just going to pull up my slides, sharing them now. Hopefully you can all see those. So today I'm just going to talk really about why clients choose the Scape Construction Framework. So I'm going to begin by sharing some feedback that we've received from clients about the National Construction Framework, Major Works England and Northern Ireland. So proactive early engagement and a partnership approach worked very effectively. We worked closely with the team throughout the project and recognised the benefits of the Scape process in ensuring full collaboration from the outset. We are valued as a customer, and Willmott Dixon demonstrated that by going the extra mile. From the early concept stage, all parties adopted a collaborative way of working, which is embedded in the Scape framework. And this enabled to share knowledge, expertise, and build trust and understanding from the outset. Sometimes the value for money is difficult to apply. It comes from the methodology and the confidence you have in the contractor. As a client, I know Willmott Dixon is a heavyweight contractor, totally up to speed on health and safety, resident liaison, logistics, and construction methodology. I can be confident and will deliver a quality project. So some of the key things coming out of the client feedback is the early engagement, the collaboration and the partnership, being valued and listened to, and confidence that the framework will deliver, and trust and confidence in the contractor, and also the strong relationships that exist between client and supply chain. And some of the key things that were captured was the client's recognition that the frameworks provide the opportunity to establish relationships, to develop trust, and to build confidence. But as Stephen's just pointed out, they also enable you to share knowledge and expertise and deliver better outcomes. And this really is the beauty of the framework. So today I'm just going to focus on three things: value for money, added value, and customer satisfaction. Value for money outcomes depend on the client approach to collaboration and the extent to which they work with the team. When clients use the Scape process in the way it was designed to work, that's where they get the value. It's about the quality of the building, but it's also about the client experience and the journey they go on. It's about the longer term and the life cycle of the building and the bits you can't touch as well as the bits you can. Having trust and confidence that your objectives will be achieved. Value for money is also about meaningful social value. And on the road to recovery, working with a local supply chain, focusing on economic skill, employment and education is key. Scape brings significant assistance to the process with early engagement of supply chain and through our KPIs. Most customers judge value for money on price transparency. Can they put their finger on what they are actually spending? Scape tenders overhead and profit and people costs, which are fixed at appointment, and each work package is tendered at the point of delivery. So the whole project cost is competitively tendered in a competitive environment, even though it's a single source. 100% of costs are fully tendered under current market rates and conditions, and our frameworks direct Willmott Dixon to use local suppliers, so you get the local economic benefit too. So in terms of added value, clients use the Scape framework because it is a managed framework. Scape has regionally based relationship managers who work closely with delivery partners such as Willmott Dixon. They know the area and understand the issues that the public sector clients face in these areas. There's also a team of people, framework managers, performance managers, as well as procurement, legal and audit teams who support clients and ensure contractors perform against the commitments set out in the framework agreement. Clients are not on their own when they use the Scape frameworks. We are here to support and help them by providing training, guidance and advice. And we have 7 dedicated teams at Scape who make sure the frameworks deliver the required outcomes. It's a process which involves the whole team, and it starts at a very early aspirational stage and brings together all stakeholders. Scape can also bring together different delivery partners to collaborate and assist the client in minimising risks and delivering better collective outcomes. Added value is also about meaningful social value, and this comes from knowing the client, the location of the projects, and understanding the social issues affecting that area. Willmott Dixon and Scape work with the client to identify solutions that will alleviate the issues. We live and work in these regions, so we understand the local issues and needs. But our social value commitment goes above and beyond what is done during construction, and it's about leaving a legacy. And I know Richard will talk a bit more about this. Our framework is about challenging delivery partners to do better, and Willmott Dixon are constantly challenging themselves, so their ethos fits well with Scape and with our public sector clients. And we consistently receive feedback from customers that they like to work with people who are easy to do business with, and above all, they want to work with people who are collaborative. Now, in terms of client satisfaction, through our KPIs and through framework commitments and performance management, we deliver results. As they say, what gets measured gets delivered. So we measure performance in time and cost, local labour and local spend, waste diversion, fair payment for the supply chain, SME engagement and spend, social value, using key themes such as jobs, growth, social, environment and innovation. And above all, we measure client satisfaction. As Stephen has already mentioned, clients our delivery partners consistently score 8 or 9 out of 10. And they also score above industry standard on the Considerate Contractor Scheme. Scape's minimum KPI is 36, and Willmott Dixon achieved 45. We believe this is because the Scape KPIs and the social value requirements drive up the standards. And I know Alison's going to talk about driving up the standards. The frameworks deliver true and meaningful social value outcomes that meet clients' needs. And clients have trust and confidence in the process. And we all know that sometimes things don't go smoothly, but Scape works with clients to keep projects on track. And we never leave you on your own. So as you can see, it really is a performance to be proud of. 98% of projects are delivered on budget, 99% on time, with an average 9 out of 10 client satisfaction. Just a bit of our performance. So we have over 5,300 completed projects and over 600 active public sector clients. In terms of performance management, our KPIs are around local spend and local labour, and you'll see there that we're achieving 85% and 82% on average, and with 97% is the average score for fair payment of supply chain. But above all, Scape is about creating a world that everyone deserves. So before I go, I'll just share with you some of the testimonials that we've received. It is great for us that Willmott Dixon uses local suppliers. When someone asks about what is happening with the local supply chain and apprenticeships, I have some lovely documents I can hand over and say, it's all there. I would say Willmott Dixon exceeds my expectation in this area. And as I mentioned, we deliver meaningful social value. And Willmott Dixon work with a charity called Step by Step, which works with young people. And this is just some of the feedback they received. I just wanted to say a massive thank you for sharing your stories and letting the young people know all the different opportunities that are available to them. It was absolutely amazing to see them so excited and engaged, and they are still buzzing about it, which is fantastic. So thank you for listening, and I'll now hand over to Alison.
Thank you, Vanessa. So I'll share my slides now with you. There we go. So thank you, Vanessa, for giving us a really good overview of what Scape does. I'm going to provide you with a bit more detail about our aim, which is to leave a sustainable legacy within the community. And what we mean by this is a positive social, economical and environmental impact, both during and after construction. And we do that by building social value into our frameworks at the start, and then performance managing every call-off. Now, this is an example of one of our framework evaluations. The ratio of 30-70 may vary each time, but we always explicitly evaluate social value. This is something that central government will be requiring in their contracts from the new year. By evaluating social value, we ensure that the sort of organisations that become our delivery partners are those for whom social value delivery is just part of their way of working. They share our ethos and our aims. And we know that we're going to have at least a 4-year relationship with these organisations. And again, they can build a long-term relationship with their clients and their supply chain through the framework. And that gives them a great opportunity to deliver maximum social value by developing those really good relationships. Now, to ensure that all the good intentions described at procurement are translated into actions, we have a suite of KPIs with challenging targets that are measured on every project. And Vanessa already alluded to these and gave you some of the stats that we get back from these. And this data is audited regularly to ensure that we have confidence in the data that we are providing and in those stats that we use to demonstrate the success of our framework. And the reason for having these measures is that not only do they drive success for the clients and their communities, but they also drive improvements in the construction industry and they support the supply chain. In addition to our KPIs, which already cover quite a lot of social value, we use the national TOMs to capture the social value that's delivered. As part of the Social Value Task Force, we worked with public and private sector organisations around the country to develop these measures to provide a consistent approach to measuring all aspects of social value. We hear an awful lot of people saying that there's no defined definition for social value and there's no consistent approach. We think that using the national TOMs enables us to use a consistent way of measuring the social value that's delivered, not only through our projects that are delivered across the whole of the UK. But it can be, the national funds can also be used to measure projects that have been delivered not through frameworks, through traditional tender and by other people. So we are at least comparing like with like. We're measuring the same things, and it makes the social value that we ascribe to our projects comparable with other projects across the country. Now, when we procure our frameworks, we can't be too prescriptive in terms of the social value delivered, but we're covering a wide range of projects across the whole of the UK for a minimum of 4 years. So unlike when you procure an individual project, and you can be very prescriptive about what social value you need to be delivered, we have to be a little bit more generic, and we have to look at ways in which social value is going to be delivered and commitments to that delivery. But for every project, and we know every project is very different, and clients' needs are very different for every project. So for every project, we have a social value action plan developed, and that is developed by the contractor and the client together jointly, talking about what's needed in that area. They'll do a needs assessment, and they'll work with local community groups and partner organisations such as the Prince's Trust or Bounce Back, or one of those other local organisations that has really good local connections and can really talk on behalf of that local community about what their needs are. And the client obviously might have their own social value policy and their own social value targets that they need to meet, and they can bring those together to develop a social value plan for that particular project, which is bespoke to that particular project. And many of our clients have declared a climate emergency and need support to meet their targets. Scape's environmental policy demonstrates our commitment here, and many of our partners have their own targets and commitments to support the delivery of net zero carbon and sustainable development. So, in summary, we know that through construction we have the opportunity to make a positive impact on people's lives, communities and the environment. And at Scape we aim to leave that sustainable legacy, and we work with some really great partners who share that objective. I'm going to pass over now to Richard Pickett to share Willmott Dixon's experience of embedding social value and sustainability. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Richard Pickett, and I lead the legacy team at Willmott Dixon London and South office. The team that I lead is responsible for environment, sustainability and social value, particularly within compliance and managing the outcomes. At the end of September, we launched our new sustainability strategy, Now or Never. And I started today's presentation using our teaser video, which highlights our focus on brilliant buildings, building lives and the better planet. Today I'll be talking about building lives, which focuses on the delivery of social value through our projects, customers, partners and frameworks. So very much building on what Alison was saying. So building on the comments of Alison, and customers use frameworks enabling social value to be placed at the heart of project delivery. This ensures the local community, environment, economy are enhanced by the project investment. Social value serves as an umbrella term we find to these broader effects, and organisations which make a conscious effort to ensure that these effects are positive can be seen as adding social value by contributing to the long-term well-being and resilience of both the individuals in the community as a whole, and society in general. Public sector bodies must take social value into account through their policy and spending decisions to maximise the benefit for communities they serve. Frameworks place importance on social value by contractually including KPIs on social value within their contracts. Therefore, organisations engaging with frameworks to procure services can be confident that certain framework partners can deliver meaningful social value. And what's important here is the word meaningful. The structure of framework procurement contributes significantly towards delivering these meaningful outcomes, particularly with early engagement benefits to frameworks, enabling customers, framework partners, and communities to develop the outcomes they desire from the start of engagement. So an example, back in 2018, Willmott Dixon set up our first Building Lives Academy in New Addington in South Croydon. Early engagement with the customer here enabled us to develop together a social value offering which would tackle local issues of unemployment and the skills shortage. So in February 2018, the Academy offered local people level 1 construction training, employability skills training, access to CSCS tests, and also access to employment on completing the course. The framework approach enabled us to deliver over £1 million worth of social value and in excess of 150 outcomes. And we were able to utilise the other projects in the region round the particular one in New Addington to deliver work experience for the individuals on the course. To prepare and deliver and monitor the social value, and as Alison has alluded to, it's important to have a robust tool and mechanism. There are several in the marketplace, but the common one is the national TOMS, and TOMS stands for Themes, Outcomes and Measures. And published by the Social Value Portal, there are many social value outcomes which have independent proxies, and these proxy values represent the social value against which customers and framework partners can report. When talking about social value, it's important to set the mindset on adding value and not adding cost. In many cases, social value can be incorporated in the existing processes by just considering and including it from the early stages. For example, when employing local people, targeting those hard to reach or long-term unemployed can deliver significant social value. But we also have to remember that social value includes many environmental and sustainability outcomes, which are there to improve local communities. So effective capturing, monitoring and recording of social value will ensure the good user stories are shared, and everybody likes the capturing of those. So how do frameworks such as Scape enhance local communities through social value commitments? Well, key is early engagement with customers and the community. When employing a framework for procurement, social value can be easily incorporated from the start of the project delivery, and this will definitely maximise the social value outcomes. To ensure delivery of robust social value, then our approach is to develop social value accounts or a social value plan. Many frameworks drive social value by setting contractors' KPIs to deliver those social value outcomes. This can vary from between 5 and 20% and is very much dependent on framework and social value definitions. But we find that the key areas for delivering effective social value include providing employment opportunities, local spend and local procurement, local labour, education, training and development at all levels, engaging with the third sector and in particular social enterprises, and finally community and environmental enhancement. When using the recognising and reporting tools such as the TOMS, the social value plan can target where the greatest benefit to the customer can be delivered and within the community. Willmott Dixon delivers a social value account from the start by engaging closely with customers and local communities. We find this essential. In our experience, the knowledge and understanding of our customers does vary, but our role as framework partner is to provide support and guidance to ensure the customer's aspirations are delivered. So examples of that successful delivery include our Building Lives initiative here, where Willmott Dixon work with customers to identify the needs of their communities to deliver the construction training. The approach to social value has identified a need within the community, brought education together, and prepared individuals for employment, but also importantly gave them access to that employment. The other thing with developing an effective social value plan is tailoring the intervention so every intervention delivers an effective social value outcome, and then capturing that within the reporting mechanism. Another great example of delivering social value was our Scape project in Brighton. Here we are constructing a new extension and carrying out refurbishment to other college areas for the Greater London Metropolitan College. Brighton has a high number of rough sleepers. Sadly, rough sleepers will die younger and are more susceptible to substance abuse and violence. So when we started working with Brighton Met, we were approached by Brighton YMCA to see if we were able to support the project they were looking to complete, which would provide a night shelter for the homeless in Brighton. Brighton YMCA had secured St Patrick's Church in Hove, which needed converting into 29 bedrooms. This project would enable Brighton YMCA to get a number of vulnerable people off the streets and provide them with the support they needed to enable them to restart their lives. So by bringing Willmott Dixon to the table, we were able to mobilise our design partners, our supply chain partners. They provided professional services, labour, materials, to effectively complete the project. But critical and important to this outcome was to enlist the assistance of the students from the construction department of the college. This combined approach to delivering social value saw our partners provide their time and resources, whilst the college students received a real insight into construction through working on a live site. Students were able to experience different trades and roles throughout construction, which benefited them greatly. And the scope of works included things like painting and decorating, installation of sanitary ware, associated electrical work, and installation of loose and fitted furniture. So this project delivered a facility for Brighton YMCA, which will now support the local homeless. It provided work experience to a group of students. So to summarise, social value can best be delivered and supported by frameworks. Early engagement of the project team is important and critical, and customers, especially for our customers, to ensure they get the best outcomes. An independent reporting mechanism enables outcomes to be compared across all framework partners. Most often than not, social value can be dovetailed into the existing processes to add value without fundamentally changing what is already happening. So I thank you for today. I call you if you have any questions about social value or things along those lines to give either Stephen, Alison or myself a call. I'll now hand back to our chair, Richard, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. What a wonderful name. Thank you. And thank you to the rest of the team as well for that brief presentation. If I may, could I start with a general question from myself, really? I understand, the drivers for social value. I understand how it works in sort of local authority, government contracts, and I understand why it's really important. But the only times I ever come across it are either when sort of building construction people or local authority people are talking about it. And I wonder what the contractors are doing and what they could perhaps do better to articulate the real outcomes that are produced through the social value requirement in these contracts. I don't even see it in local newspapers, even though some of the towns that I visit are gridlocked with developments. I'm thinking of the Sir Robert McAlpine project over in Woking Town Centre. Wonderful. And they're doing such great work. But the only time I hear about the impact is when they're talking about it or the local authority are talking about it. Thoughts, please, on how that good work can be better spread to the community's impact.
I'm happy to take that, if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Richard, we're about to open a Building Lives Academy in Woking with the local authority. So it'll be in the Peacock Shopping Centre. But I think, Bill, the thing with it being is with social value, I think sometimes it can be quite a specialist subject within this forum, and a lot of that good work does get publicised, but it doesn't get the social value tagged to it, if you see what I mean. And I suppose some of the work we're doing now down with sort of East Sussex College, for example, is making sure that that when we're looking at the works and the employment opportunities, is that we're not just utilising our partners to say, right, we'll just bring anybody on, but we're actually identifying those individuals which are, as we call, hard to reach or need to get into those. But it's making sure that we shout about and publicise that to the local authority and within the press as we move forward, to be honest. So I think it can be a bit of a specialist subject, and I think it needs to be made more within the press. But I think as we move forward, particularly with the new strategies that are moving forward, it's going to become more prevalent.
And hopefully more aware. I remember being involved in presentations around social value and social impact in connection with some of the charities that I'm involved in, and just thinking about how do you think that's evolved over the years since it's become an element in the bidding process, and how important do you think it will be going forward?
Shall I answer that one? I think we have certainly noticed. I've been with Scape for 5 years, and during that time we've procured our frameworks on a rolling sort of 4-year basis, and we've certainly noticed more recently that organisations are doing their best to capture the social value that they've done. Prior to that, they did it, and they just did it as a matter of course. It was just something that they did, and they didn't sort of really think anyone would be wanting to hear about it, really. It was just part of the course. It was just business as usual. Of course, they went in and they spoke to students and they engaged the local community, and they did all these things because that's just the way they worked. But I think now that they recognise that it is being evaluated within tenders, that they do need to capture it, record it, evidence it, and show how much they have done in the past and how much they're capable of doing in the future. So I think when it becomes value to them for work winning, that's when they realise that they need to put some effort into actually recording it and showing it, demonstrating it to other people.
And I think that's at the heart of my question, because when I speak to people around the disruption impact and everything else, people talk about how important the project is, and people understand that it's important that this work is done and these buildings are built or this infrastructure is created, but they very rarely point to, oh, and by the way, this is also going to happen. I think that's probably a failing, and if we have moved on from what must I put in terms of social value in order to win this contract, to well, I've delivered this, but I'm not really interested in this, because what we're interested in is delivering the project. And if we are now moving on that arc towards meaningful impact, then now is probably the time, more than any time, when that needs to be articulated and brought front of mind.
I think there's many things, there's a lot of things that all contractors do just day to day, which they don't also realise is social value. It's just simple things like, and I alluded to earlier, like local spend. Just by spending local. We was on a forum this morning, and every time you spend £1 locally, it's equivalent to perhaps £2 within the local economy, and that keeps local people involved. It's just silly things like making sure the local sandwich shop's still running and things along those lines. And I suppose that I spoke about New Addington in the previous example. You know, we had a cabin in the centre of the village square there, and you know, there was a real presence, and people. We had a long waiting list of people coming through on that course, and in the end, you know, the space that we had when it wasn't using, the community were using as a facility for meeting. Even the business club that was round there did it the same. So there was all these different things that were going on. I think from a contractor's point of view, from Willmott Dixon, is we want to engage with those communities, and every community is different, and every community has its own little nuances. You know, you in the middle of somewhere, it might be youth mobility is an issue, but we might have crime in some place. So it's making sure you can identify those. Sometimes we can't give you a solution. It's got to be round what we're doing best, but that's what I tend to find. So
no, go on, Stephen.
Sorry to cut across, Richard. I mean, we're talking about the built and non-built environment here, and clearly both are as important as the others. I'm always really pleasantly surprised what can be achieved within the local community. And New Addington, which I'm only about 4 miles away from, I think we had over 200 people in 12 months go through and get CCS cards or BMVQ, you know, and we did that off our own back with Carshalton College, I think, Richard P. and Croydon Council. And it's a great initiative. And from that, now, as a business, we're not that fussed whether we get 200 new employees and come on our sites. That's not the MO. The MO is actually to do what we say, which is to actually look at the community. How can we help as a construction company? I think that's really very important to say, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there. I think if anything, the word needs to be spread out. Maybe sort of get your marketing teams on it, so that not just.
You're looking at him, Richard.
Yeah, I'm going
to say. Get your marketing teams on it.
And I think as a sort of final point from me, really, it's all about upstreaming, and as the other Richard said, the much younger Richard. It's about understanding the customer and the area requirements. And what we want to do, and this goes back to the key word, which is collaboration. If people can just open up, be honest, create a partnership, get all the stakeholders involved early, we can work upstream and deliver whatever they want in the built environment or non-built environment.
Yeah,
I suppose one of the things with social value is also identifying where we have short. You know, it's also about improving the construction industry as well. So, you know, there's shortage of skills. You know, particularly when we look at things like dry lining and things along those lines. And an initiative we launched 18 months ago was a dry lining academy in HMP Elmley, where we actually train the residents there, and then they get employment on the outside. Now, the reason for doing that is that within the Kent area, for example, there's a great need for dry lining and things along those lines. That's a benefit to that's the environment to us as a collective construction industry. So, and that delivers social value, and obviously the reoffending rate drops as well. So it's win-win for everybody.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful, and more power to you guys, and more power to all the other sort of contractors out there who are taking the social value element of their overall work to heart, and making it real in the built and the non-built environment, and making it more than just another thing that has to be done. And fair play to all of you on that. I'm looking at the Q&A here. We've got a question for Richard Pickett has just come in. So do you typically receive proactive social communication from your supply chain when commencing a project? We believe early communication and engagement is key, and that's from Carly at DDS.
Yes, I think our supply chain know what we're looking to do, and we start from the very start with them. And in many cases, we'll bring them into the customers to have those discussions with them. So, it's not a case of we agree it and then we tell them what they're going to do, because we sometimes, in many cases, need their skills to help deliver it, because it's a combined effort.
Thank you so much, Carly, for that. Any other questions before we sort of close out and get back into the wonderful world of visiting booths and networking and attending sessions? if there's no other questions, could we perhaps have a wrap up from you, Stephen, maybe?
Oh, thank you, Richard. Well, listen, I think for the here and now, for me, and talking to both the public and private sector alike, the only way that this industry is going to recover in the most expedient way is to actually open up and talk and collaborate. And frameworks, have proven over many, many years, and Scape is a great framework, and there's some other great ones as well, that, you can go quicker. And I'm not trying to do procurement out of a job or anything like that. But the point is, we've got to get going a bit quicker. And we all know that going forward, potentially with this vast amount of work that could happen for everyone, there will potentially be a supply chain issue, both in materials and people. So we've got to get going a bit quicker. So the call really is to not wait on the corner, actually get on and do it, and speak to people that have already got the experience and actually doing some of these things. So that would be my wrap up. Thank you.
Super, thank you. And Vanessa, Alison, a quick wrap up maybe from you from the scope perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I just would say really what we've talked about today is about the relationship aspect. So what a framework brings you is that ability to collaborate early, the ability to understand the client need right from the very beginning. So in terms of the social value delivery, it's no point coming to me when you're on site and you're constructing and saying this is what we want to deliver in terms of social value. We've got to have that conversation at the very, very early stages. And Stephen mentioned this in his intro, really. I think one of the key things that framework brings is the ability to collaborate between different delivery partners, different interfaces, and to learn lessons. And one thing that we're very much focusing on now is just really best practice. How do we learn those lessons? How do we share that within the Scape network in order to make the client experience better for everybody? Have you got anything that you'd like to add, Alison, to that?
No, I think you've covered it there. That's it's positive message. So it's good.
Yeah, super. Thank you so much. And of course, we're reminded that collaboration is very different to team working and very different to any other sort of community effort. Collaboration really is laboring together, and sometimes even compromising on what we want to get as our part of the collaboration for the greater good. So I think collaboration is probably a good, strong takeaway for me anyway around all of this. So thank you so much for that. And with that, I'm going to say thank you to all of our previous speakers, and thank you for your engagement as you've been sort of watching that sort of presentation. We're going to break in again to the Expo itself, our networking areas, the Expo booths for the next sort of 15 minutes or so. And we're back here on the main stage at 1:40, and we'll be sort of getting involved again in sort of innovation and looking at building better outcomes through innovation. That's at 1:40. In the meantime, if you've got any insights or takeaways from our last presentation, or indeed any of the other ones that you have watched today, then do share them in the chat. Your insight could be somebody else's prompt and sort of trigger for action. So feel free to share in a collaborative way here. So I'm going to leave you run on and get involved in your networking, the Expo, and do whatever you need to do. And we're back here again at 1:40. See you then.